Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Finovate TV. We are here live at Finovate Fall in New York. I'm Julie Muhn, Senior Research Analyst with Finovate, and today I'm joined by Vivek Bedi, speaker, entrepreneur, and author of a book titled You, the Product. Today we're going to be speaking to Vivek about startup culture, work-life balance, diversity, and improving the customer experience. So let's jump right in. First of all, thanks for joining us, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Thanks, Julie. I'm so excited to be at Finovate. A little bit about me. I have worked at big companies like Goldman Sachs, Northwestern Mutual, ran product there. Also ran product at startups. Had two of my own startups that eventually I exited. So really seen products from big company and small innovative side as well. I wrote my own book recently around product, which you mentioned, and hot off the press, I just became the CPO of Product School out of San Francisco. So been in the product scene in and out. I do a lot of coaching, advising. I've advised about 300 companies over my career, and super, super excited to be here with you.
Great, yeah, sounds like you're busy, great. So your keynote is tomorrow, and you're gonna be exploring how to move from a product focus to a customer focus. So we all know that's important, the customer focus, but how do we do it?
Yeah, we always talk about it, right? How do we actually do it? And I think this is something I'm so passionate about, Julie. Moving from being in product for 20 years, I've realized, geez, the customer is so important. And there's a few things that I really, I'm going to talk about in the talk tomorrow. Really 3 areas to focus on. One is, how do we become customer obsessed? I know we say that term a lot, but how do we actually make that happen in practicality? So, how do we, unless you work at Instagram, Twitter, or those social media platforms, 9 out of 10 times, we're not even using our product day in and day out. Somebody else is. So how do we become in their shoes? Recent story, when I joined Product School, I actually pretended to be a client, called our sales agents and walked through the process. And I realized that so many things are broken and there's so many areas that we can fix, right? So it's really important, when I say customer obsession, is how do we really become the customer, feel their challenges, feel their pains, and feel their struggles. That's one area I'm gonna deep dive into. The second area is really on all customers' feedback matters. It's so easy for us to gravitate towards the good, right? The customers that are our cheerleaders saying that we're doing a great job. What about the naysayers? I actually found myself obsessing over time in my career on folks that don't like my product. Why don't they like it? Is there something there? Are they just grumpy? Or is there something there that I'm not missing? Yeah. Leading at Northwestern Mutual, the product team, Northwestern Mutual isn't the most sexiest product, it's life insurance, but it was really important for me to actually look at the feedback from others as well. And some of our key advisors hated the product because we were moving it to digital when I joined. And they're like, you're gonna mess up the entire product experience. And I really, really obsessed and understood their feedback. A year later, by the way, those same people joined my panel and actually were advocating about it. So they forgot about it, but the point is really obsessing about all different parts of the product life cycle. So those are the 2 main areas I'm going to focus in on tomorrow.
Great, yeah, well, I'm excited for it, wonderful. So let's shift over to your book now. Yep. So you authored the book, You, the Product. Mm-hmm. What are some of the key points you have in that book for business leaders?
Sure, You, the Product is really focused on elevating you, right? We're really focused on the product and what we build and the experiences. But I think before you can do that, you really need to elevate yourself. And you have to change your mindset and the way that you think. So 2 key points that I'm gonna zone in on the talk tomorrow. One is storytelling. To be an amazing product leader or build amazing experiences, we need to think about the story. My wife made me watch an amazing documentary recently by Michelle Obama. And it was all focused on how people rarely remember the stats, but they remember the stories, right? They remember what you tell them. And I actually used that in a board meeting recently. And I did it as a test. I actually put one slide that was focused on all the stats of all the amazing things we did, and the other one was focused on the emotional stories, right? And the impact we're having. 6 months later, I asked the board members, no one ever remembered the stats. They all remembered the actual stories. So it's really important on how do we build our story when we build the experience. The second thing I'm gonna zone in on that's really in my book is tapping into empathy and emotion. Rarely do people are not emotionally tied to a product, but they're emotionally tied to the experience around that product. So it's really important on how can we invoke emotion? How can we invoke storytelling? How can we bring empathy into the experience? And that's really going to be the game changer as we look forward, and that's a big foundation of my book.
Very cool, very cool. So we live in a world of information overload. There's data everywhere. Given this, how do you advise business leaders to use and decipher this data to make smart decisions for both their products and their business in general?
Yeah, Julie, I think unfortunately or fortunately, we are bombarded with data these days, right? If I just open my phone, I can find data from different things, from different views for the same topic. So it can be very overwhelming. And a few things that I've learned is my relationship with data is like my relationship with my wife. She's always right, I'm really right. But I think it's important to really kind of think through dissect data. As you mentioned, smart data. I think of it as kind of scoped data. Let's look at the data that's actually impactful for our product or our experience, right? There's a lot of noisy data around you as well. So you really need to be laser focused on the data that's most impactful for the experience that we're building, for the customers that we're building. And sometimes it's really easy to kind of get lost in the noise. So you need to kind of bring yourself back. The second thing I'd say is really targeted data. If I look at our experience, you have the onboarding usually, then you're going through the experience, then after the experience. So if you look at your product, there's many life cycles on it, right? And if you're asking your customers, what do you think of my experience? And you're just looking at it at a high level, you might not get that detailed version. So I really like to look at it as, what did you like about this part of our experience? What did you like about that part of the experience or not like? Then you can aggregate that, but also it pinpoints you on what to laser focus on to improving the experience a bit more. So those are two important areas. And the third and final, again, I'm triple clicking on the emotion component of it. Data can lie to you at times, unfortunately, right? Yeah. So I think it's really important to complement data. And I've always been grew up as a data-driven product leader. What I've come to realize now is you also need to complement data with emotion and feedback. So I'm always making sure that as I'm collecting this data, I'm also getting feedback from my customers to complement it, understand it, shadow session, watch them learn, watch their struggles. Sometimes data doesn't catch those things.
Yeah, so it's not just all about the numbers, but again, looking at the story behind it. Very interesting. Okay, so to kind of wrap us all up here, I'd like to look towards the future. What do you think the future has in store, and how can the financial services industry keep up?
Yeah, I think the future for the financial services is changing now, and it's going to change faster. There's disruptors out there. It's a hot industry right now. There's folks in garages coming up with amazing concepts. Then there's incumbents that need to really change. And our customer has changed. If you think about the next generation customer, they have a lot of access to data. Brand matters, social impact matters. They're buying things based off what others are buying. So there's a lot of other components and emotional and lifestyle components that play a role. The customer has changed and other industries are changing. We need to change. I like to use the analogy of Netflix and Blockbuster. I'm going to date myself, but there isn't that many blockbusters around because Netflix came in and changed the model and made it easier. And I think it's really important for financial services to really take that. We need to be customer obsessed. We need to focus on the customer. We need to put some of our concepts and methodologies to the side or improve on them to really innovate and think in our customers' shoes. And I'm excited about the future because there's a huge opportunity to disrupt.
Yeah, great. Well, Vivek, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been Vivek Bedi. We'll catch you next time at Finovate TV.